Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Dream Big podcast with Bob Goff and friends. I am your co-host, Scott Schimmel. I'm here with Bob Goff.
Hey, everybody. I hope it's been a great week for you. And I hope that you have a couple undistracted moments to listen to our friend Annie Downs as we talk about setbacks and what happens. There's some internal things that happen, but then there's also the external things. There's a thing you're asking yourself, why did that happen? Where do I go?
Right.
But then the external is, what's everybody else going to think about what happened? And so sorting those things out is such a beautiful thing and a necessary part of identifying setbacks.
Yeah, there's so many ways to respond to a setback, and that's a big part of why we're having this conversation this entire month. How do you respond when something doesn't go your way, when you've got a dream and something stops you or you get rejected? And Annie is somebody, as you're going to listen into, who understands rejection and yet keeps going.
Yeah, do you hit the brakes or do you hit the gas? It's just like 6 inches in between them.
Yeah, right.
But I would just
big difference.
Go for the one on the right.
Yeah.
But if you need to hit the brakes for a little bit, don't do this if you're in traffic right now. But what I want you to do is to pause long enough to say, actually, what have been some setbacks? A moment of introspection is going to get you a mile of growth in your life.
How do you know Annie?
Oh, we've been friends for the longest time. She's a voice I trust in my life. She is just so full of joy, but more than just joy, there's a lot of depth and wisdom and sincerity in her. And so I don't know how many years we've been friends, but many. Yeah. And one of the things that's been consistent in our friendship is that we go a mile deep when we're having a conversation. We don't just keep it on the surface. We'll find each other in an airport in Toledo, and it's like those conversations you just picked up where you left off. So she is a voice that is very large in my life. She has touched countless people in her podcasts, her books, and I'm just so excited for everybody to get a listen.
Well, we're looking forward to you listening in on a deep conversation with Bob Goff and Annie Downs.
Hey, Annie, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi, Bob. Thanks for having me. I'm so glad to be here. It's such an honor.
Yeah, I'm just saying you are such a fun friend, and you just bring joy into the room. I know that you know that your reputation is for that. And I just wonder, I'm like, as another fellow kind of Tigger person, do you ever feel an expectation that you'll be the one that's like full of joy and all that, and you're having a day where you're actually just not feeling it?
Yes, I do. And you know, when it's a personal situation, when it's friends or a dinner, I usually hope that I can give some sort of like, hey, before we get started, I've had a really long day or this thing is going on, or like, you know, like, as I told you, I've been having some headaches. And so it's affected work in one way that I've had to go like, hey, I'm just not quite the Annie that you see on Instagram because I have a migraine today.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? The what we do in these podcasts, just conversations among friends, and I guess I just wanted to get that out for some reason. I was thinking a lot of times people hear Annie Downs or they'll hear my name and they'll think that we're going to be like all balloons and unicorns and that. And sometimes there's actually setbacks that we each encounter. People that know me know my home burned down. That was like a setback. I'm not camping out there, but that was definitely like you get some time to grieve that. We each have things that'll happen. You mentioned a migraine. You know, that could be something as simple as just feeling off. One of the things that I was hoping we could do today is talk about when you have a setback. How do you deal with that? Because we have this image of ourselves and the way that we project ourselves to other people and the way that we see the world. That isn't disingenuous. We actually just see the world in these really lively tones. Yet some things can happen, whether it's self-induced or somebody else inadvertently hurts our feelings. What do you do with a setback? How do you deal with that?
I think it's funny for two people with our personality to be having this conversation because I would historically be the one to pretend like it never happened and just to like, we're fine. It's going to be great. Don't worry about it. But I've found that the really healthiest next move for me after I've experienced is just to call it that, just to say, hey, this was a huge setback for me. this is a huge disappointment. This did not go the way I thought it would. I think I used to think that the best way to heal from a setback was to move forward as quick as I could away from it.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I feel like what I've learned, what I am learning, and what I've learned is that to call it what it is, to sit in it for a minute and let it be true, and let it be a setback professionally or personally, and then say, okay, I am in this. This is true. I have another friend, and we always say to each other, savor this. And when things are going really well, it's really easy to savor a piece of cake, or to savor a really good relationship, or to savor where everybody is really happy with the work you're putting out. But there is something really profound about going, man, I just got broken up with, and I'm going to savor this, because there is something in this pain that is meant for me.
Yeah,
Or
kind of
I
like,
just got rejection, and the rejection professionally, getting a no from a publisher, or getting a no from someone you want on your podcast. I need to savor some of that pain, because it's supposed to teach me something.
so figuring out what it is that was the return address of whatever pain or that struck you wrong or whatever, and then figuring out that moment of pause to say, hey, can we circle back to that? If you're listening to the podcast and you have, unreconciled something with somebody, what a great time to bring that up and to just say in a really non-threatening way, could we circle back to that? And the whole reason for talking about this is that we're talking about how do you get after your ambitions, that you take action on them, you look for opportunities. And one of these things along the way is to expect there'll be a couple setbacks. And I think what you and I are both saying is that some of those will be like getting our own house in order, like how we perceive the world, so that you're actually prepared emotionally, relationally, to move forward with the things that you need to do.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. I was out, I told you before we started, I was out at Onsite today, and we did do this conversation in our little small group just for a second of like checking in. And they said, what do you feel invited to, or what do you feel open to? And I said, I feel open to learning what my role is in healing in some of these relationships. Like, we can't control other people. We can't control all the people connected with our ambitions or the setbacks, but we can sure show up as our healthiest self every day, or at least try to. And I think that says more about you in a setback probably than it does in a success, is can you show up as healthy as you can be on that day, in that moment, and asking the questions. You said it so beautifully, to ask in a non-threatening way. I almost have to think more about that toward myself when a setback happens. Can you ask yourself in an unthreatening way, why didn't this go the way you wanted it to, versus being unkind toward myself?
Yes, instead of being like overly harsh, to just like your emotions have rights. You actually
that's
need
really
to
good.
be a little softer with yourself sometimes. And sometimes in dealing with things that are difficult, I can tend towards being really self-effacing. I can go like, oh, no, I can barely even write. I don't even know how to spell cat. When the fact is I actually do know how to spell cat. And to not speak these words over yourself that aren't true. And doesn't involve just positive affirmations. I'd say just like getting rid of sugar in your diet, what if you just get rid of some of the negative stuff or untrue things that you've been saying about yourself? Why does that make sense in this whole Dream Big framework? I think it's about preparing yourself so that you're a whole person can show up when you have a great big setback. Because if only half of you shows up, then it's really going to fillet you. But if all of you shows up kind of with a stance ready to lean forward and learn from it, then you actually can see these things not as God shutting the door, but perhaps another opportunity to do it. One of the things I've so enjoyed, Annie, in these podcasts have been talking to some people that say, then I got fired from this, then this didn't happen, then the marriage fell apart, then this, then that. Like all of these setbacks, but they were just tenacious about getting after it. They had a beautiful ambition. They didn't, one thing in common, they didn't necessarily have a destination, but they had a direction. And tell us a little bit about a direction for your life. There's so many things that you're known for: author, speaker, many great books, including the last couple that we have a couple here up on the shelf, right? Tell us about what are some of your ambitions and what have been some of the setbacks that have come up along the way.
you kind of set me up beautifully for that, because before my first book came out, I got 47 rejections on it. Like, that's more than there are publishers, Bob. I mean, we got multiple rejections from the same people in the same publishing houses. And no one sees that part, right? No one sees the part where you get the rejection letters. And it was about 10 years ago. And so they would still mailed letters to me. It wasn't even emails. And I still have them all, and they matter to me. The thing that things like rejection letters do for me and setbacks do for me is, if you stay in it, if you keep going after the thing. Now, it didn't look traditionally like I thought it was going to. I thought, okay, well, now I'm not going to do this, or okay, now I'm going to keep going after this, and I'll get a traditional book deal no matter what. Instead, I kind of went, well, now that no one wants to publish me, what do I do with this work that I was going to do? And the answer is, I decided to self-publish my first book. And that kind of set me on a path towards getting a traditional book deal in the future. And now we're 8 books in, right? But no one sees all that. No one sees the years before anybody knows who you are, or before they're reading your books.
Yeah, it's all the things that are happening on the back lot, kind of in your life, and the circumstances in your life, and then who supported you in the middle of those failures, when publishers you didn't even write to sent you rejection letters.
Precisely. They were like, we heard there might be a book proposal. Yeah. Don't even send it here.
Yeah. But one of the things that we just don't have time to do in the quickness and the pace of life is sometimes ask those questions. Like, what happened when you apply to the law school and they say no? Or all of them say no. What happens when, I asked Sweet Maria, like, you want to go out on this thing? It's called a date. I haven't gone on many, but we could try. And she said, no, thanks. So you could see these as setbacks and still have the ambition, or you could mislabel these as voice of God. And I wouldn't necessarily go right to voice of God. I would do what Paul said to do, was just check it against Scripture. Is there anything in the Bible that says Bob can't date Maria? I couldn't find a thing. I'm like, game on.
Right. So I think that's also why you have to have other wise voices in your life too, to go like, hey, this thing is coming toward, this big no just happened in my life. I can't see in Scripture that I'm supposed to give up on this. And God says, when you knock on a door, He will answer. And it says, ask, seek, and knock, right? It doesn't say like knock one time and then walk away if it doesn't sling open. If you have to stand there and pound on a door for a bit, I think there's perseverance in that. But then you invite other people in and go, hey, do you think I should walk away from this? I remember I had a friendship fall apart, Bob, with a friend, and I was trying really hard to repair it. And I mean, I had caused it to fall apart. So let me preface that I had caused it to fall apart. And as I was trying to repair it, about probably 8 months into trying to repair it, a pastor called me that is mutual in both of our lives and said, okay, you've done enough. You can stop. And what their response is up to them, but you've done enough. And I thought, okay, someone else spoke in when the door was closed. And that felt like God. Right. And so you have to invite other people in as well, I think, with setbacks.
Yeah. Something about being able to deal with your feelings authentically, because again, like, I want to skip over all the sad part. I'm not the guy to be speaking on Good Friday, because I always want to run to Sunday, because that's the happy part. Right. And so I think I get places, before Jesus rose, I was like already there, like saying, so, let's start the party. And I think that idea of slowing down a little bit, I've learned a lot of that from Sweet Maria, to just, you don't need to camp out again, but to spend some time figuring out that. And for some people that are listening, it'll be journaling. For me, it's just writing down thoughts, maybe 5 or 6 words at a time. But I'll do that. I'd still, on average, 100 emails a day I'll send myself. Little shards of thoughts that I want to actually loop back to later. I don't have the time to right now, but that idea of the next morning to spend some time and say, like, what was that about? And what was I thinking? Because I actually want to understand that. The people that behind the scenes are doing that kind of work oftentimes are freed up in front of everybody to be optimistic, because you've actually culled the field a little bit. You've tended to the garden. And now you're freed up to not be inhibited by as many things. What do you do when there's something that's just really hurt your feelings? How do you deal with that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a crier, and so that will be the first thing is I express my emotions through my face. And so that's one of the first things that I'm okay with happening now when I probably wasn't, even in my 20s. I'm in my late 30s now. In my 20s, I felt embarrassment and shame if someone else made me cry. It felt like it was giving them power that they didn't deserve. But what I've grown to understand is that when I cry, I'm giving myself power to feel what I'm experiencing. Like it is actually a self-power move to go, you are allowed to respond to this however you need to respond to this. And I honor that that's how you respond to this. I also, our mutual friend, John Acuff, often says, don't believe the top 10% or the bottom 10% of what people say about you. Usually both of them are not totally telling the whole truth. And so when I get my feelings hurt, I like to identify if that's the bottom 10% of what people say about me. Okay, take out what you can that's good. And again, I invite people in where I'll say, hey, someone said this about me. This is what hurt my feelings. How much of that is true? I remember one time I wrote, a friend and I got in a real argument about 15 years ago. And I wrote down everything she said. And I took it to another trusted mentor. And I said, some of this on this list must be true, right? This must be true. Help me sort through what's true and what's not true. And help me to let go of what's not true. But man, getting my feelings hurt, for our personality type, getting your feelings hurt I think this may be true for her. It just feels so personal. Like You're like, but don't you like me? Don't you see? It was fun. I was having a great time.
Yeah. One of the things that is a more immediate reaction than I wish it was is I turtle. Like arms in, legs in, head in, tail in. I just turtle. I disappear in my shell. And in part, it's a self-preservation things, but also part of it, and it may be mistaken in this, but I just want to insulate everybody else from me right now because I just feel like totally wounded and I don't want to bum everybody else out because that is like kryptonite for a 7. I don't want to bum everybody out. So I just totally turtle. And sometimes it takes a while to work up the courage. The reason that seems relevant on this topic of pursuing your dreams and ambitions is we need to sort that stuff out. Because if you turtle, then some of these beautiful opportunities are going to pass you by. Right in the middle of the worst thing, this neat opportunity comes by. And because you've turtled, you're missing it. You're missing the good part. This is actually the good part.
That's exactly right. I feel like that's what some of the emotional health work I've tried to do has been this, like, don't automatically withdraw and don't automatically start by inviting people in, even if it's terrible, because that way, at least I'm not going to miss the parade. I just don't want to miss a parade, even if I'm in pain. And so how do we do that? And particularly with work, you can feel embarrassed if it's public, if people see it, if people know you tried something and it failed and you just want to throw your phone in the ocean and move to a new city and start a new life. I mean, I get those inclinations, but there is such beauty in being honest about setbacks and letting your dreams and ambitions be something that you don't keep just to yourself out of fear of the setback being public too.
Yeah, there's something about letting everybody know what your ambition is, to shout it from the roofs. If you're listening, let everybody know, and don't let that idea that it might not work keep you away. To say you are still entitled to let everybody know what your ambition is. And so whether it's inside within your control or outside, like my ambition has always been to be a grandpa. And then that changed a month and a half ago. I actually got that. Now I want to be a multi-grandpa. I want everybody to have children immediately. But the letting people know your ambition, there's some ambitions that are completely within your control. And you have an ambition each place you speak. You want to connect with people. I'm not trying to be popular. If I was 20 years old and could melt people's faces with a Stratocaster, I'd want to be popular. But I'm actually not 20 and I can't play the guitar. But what I do want is connect with people. And I can honestly say there's been a couple times I've spoken places that I've just felt like I didn't connect. I just go I just feel like I just missed that one. I don't know whether I was having an off day or if or what it was, but it's been so good on those times it has felt like a failure to speak to a trusted friend to say, like, I just don't miss that one. I don't know what I did wrong, but it's a great time to reflect. But my immediate thought when I finish that is, I stink at this. I should never do it again. Nobody should ever have to be exposed to me. Like, I am like the least fun, interesting person, and I've just wrecked like part of their afternoon. And I owe them for having wrecked their afternoon. Where does that come from? Does that haunt you at all ever?
Yeah, totally. If I've had a couple, like you, I've had a couple of stage experiences that were bombs, and when you walk away, you think, I can't ever risk like that again, because I am so scared I'll feel this again.
Yeah.
And whatever it says about us as humans, not just Annie and Bob, but as humans, some sentence gets spoken to us in shame when we fail that says, you better not do this again because fill in the blank, because people saw, because of what it says about you, because of what it says about your family of origin, whatever. And so we tend to, turtling is such a great image for me. I tend to turtle if I fail publicly like that. But the other side is, if we invite people into our dreams and ambitions, we are kind of setting the table for God to feed them a really good meal of his faithfulness. But we got to invite them to the table. And if we always keep our dreams and ambitions to ourselves, other people aren't going to see what God can do and be brave in their own story too.
Yeah. And there's something really beautiful and redemptive about hearing somebody's ambition and then finding out why it didn't happen. You're not hoping bad things to happen to them, but that they were authentic enough to say, I really wanted this and I just kept getting a no, and there's no awesome ending to it. There's just like, so, and then I just got a no yet again. There's actually something that just makes us feel like this common humanity, that we have wants and needs and desires, and they just aren't fulfilled right now. It doesn't mean they won't ever be fulfilled, but perhaps. And there's something actually beautiful. I feel like the ground becomes very, very level to say, yes, I've had these things that I've wanted that have been expressed or unexpressed. And then something that...
It's great just modeling that for us, because the truth is, everybody wants something and then they get it and will want something else. Like, you wanted to be a grandpa, you got it, and now you want to be a multi-grandpa. I want to be, I want to do more stuff on TV. Maybe I'll get it, maybe I won't, but then I'll want something else. I want to be married. Once I get married, I'll want something else. It doesn't end. So it's not like we have to stop wanting if setbacks happen. We just have to learn how to want well and want in a way that makes other people, the level playing field. Like, guess what? Everyone listening, we all want something. We all have dreams and ambitions. Let's cheer for each other and walk with each other in it.
Yeah, and the thing that I find myself looping back to many times a day is a reminder about why I do what I do. Like, this is like, I wear a Mickey Mouse watch everywhere I go. I've been trying cases for 30 years with this thing. And have you ever walked into a room where it doesn't look like anybody's smiling except you?
Yeah.
I'm like, me and you, buddy. Come on, let's do this thing. And if you know why you're doing what you're doing, the little picadillos that make you unique, we're actually picking out marble for the lodge right now. And the thing that they have said about these swirls in the marble is that the thing that makes the slab so unique is also its weakest point. I'm like, that'll preach. Right? So the things that make you and I unique, like whether it's like upbeat and optimistic and mischief and all that, are also become our weakest point.
Man, I hope you'll make this a book. I hope your next book is what I learned from rebuilding the lodge.
Yes, totally. There was not even ashes left over. So one of the things that I want to understand for the people that are listening in, to say, find something that's been a failure or a setback, something where you wanted to totally turtle. And can you put one leg outside the shelf and then maybe a second lake outside the shell. Find somebody safe. Like I would like to be Switzerland to people. I just want to be a safe place where whatever your worldview is, wherever you stand on whatever the big social issue of the day is, wherever that this would be a safe place that you could come and have a conversation. I'll tell you, if you make safe places for other people to land, they will make safe places for you to land.
That's right. That's right.
And
Someone will. Someone will be safe for you if you're safe for others. And that's it. I mean, you dream big, and everything you're building is so important. And it's just what we're getting to say today is dream big again.
Well
Don't
said.
just dream big once. And if it works or didn't work, let it go. Go again, like get back on the horse, put your legs out of the turtle shell and go again, go on another date, try to write another book, try a different company. Like look at entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs lose tons of money all the time, but then they try again. And that's what makes them successful.
Oh my gosh.
So we just want people to dream big again.
I've tried to start schools in other countries and it failed horribly. It just didn't work. But I don't just camp out in those. I want to fail trying.
I feel the same. I mean, I feel the same about writing books. I feel the same about dating. I mean, like it fits in every category of your life. You are either going to do it watching or trying. And if you're going to fail, if I'm going to fail in anything, I want to fail like, I want to go big. You know, I want to go out and everybody go like, she was a fireworks show. She blew up at the end, you know, like.
Yeah, but did it authentically? Like that
way.
would be the thing. Your authenticity is among your greatest attributes. And I think if we could just approach whatever we approach with authenticity, with anticipation, hopeful, informed by our faith, informed by all of our experiences, with a couple safe people around us, and then we'll just get back to building that rocket ship that was supposed to be our life, rather than saying, well, this isn't for me.
And trust that everything that has happened is drawing a path for you to the right thing, to the right life, to the right story. The best days and the worst days are all part of the map. And so there is some appreciation in the pain of going like, I hate this pain that I'm in, whether for whatever the setback is, but I am sure that this drew a line on a map that I am going to get to follow that is exactly who I'm meant to be. And so that's part of the pill I can swallow in the pain that makes me feel a little bit better is this matters. This pain matters.
Yeah, and it's expensive tuition emotionally for whatever happened, but to prepare you. And then also, I hope that the outgrowth for both you and I in our enthusiasm is that it slows us down when somebody else is having an off day or says something untoward or unkind towards us, that we could actually slow down to say there's some stuff going on behind the scenes there in their lives. They're just as insecure as I am. They're just not covering it up as well right now.
Yes, that's right. There are days where I will cover it up more poorly than they're doing right now. But today,
you know what's been super
exactly
good
right.
too? I've said that a couple of times. I've interrupted myself in a conversation to say, can I just pause for a second? I think what I'm being right now is just really insecure, and I'm covering up all that insecurity with a whole bunch of chatter or another story about something. But let me just level with you that I feel like really outside my element. And so what I'm finding myself is talking around you rather than talking to you. And so say in a moment of authenticity, if we could have that, it almost like clarifies what would otherwise be a big setback, which it would be a really bad or lame or inauthentic conversation. In that one moment to say, I just think I'm just talking around you in circles because I'm just really insecure right now. They go like, wow, me too.
Right. It just makes everybody feel like a human. And when everybody around you is a human, the setbacks and the wins all kind of feel more like the flow of a river. You know, they feel more like the ebb and flow of like, yeah, this is just part of life versus massive highs and massive lows that come when you aren't willing to be authentic, I think.
Yeah, bingo. Well, Annie, thank you as always. I could talk to you all day, but the takeaway for me is and if you're listening in, to just go be you. Like, you want to do something awesome for Jesus today, go be you. Yeah. And to realize that most of us aren't at like a remodel, we're a tear down. And then we just need to just be kind to yourself as you're moving the 2x4s around. Give yourself time. It's not going to happen in a big hurry, but you can have a couple of close friends around you that will be with you. So if you're listening in, Annie, what's the name of your podcast?
It's called That Sounds Fun with Annie F. Downs. You know it's got to be called that, Bob. That Sounds Fun.
Totally. And the most recent books, which ones are out there?
The most recent is Remember God and 100 Days to Brave. Those are the two that people are talking to me the most about right now. So, and you can find me everywhere on the internet at Annie F. Downs. The F is for fancy. So, show me, Bob. That's where you can find me.
All right. Well, I love you. Thanks for making a little time.
Thank you.
Bye.
Well, I loved that conversation. One of the things that stood out to me, Annie said, we can show up as our healthiest selves every day, which is a choice that we make.
Yeah, you get to decide, who am I going to bring to the party, to the meeting, to the gathering? Do I want to bring a caricature of who I am, which is everybody who they expect I am? Like if I'm Bob, they go like, he's the guy with the balloons and happy-go-lucky and all that. Or do I want to actually bring me? Yeah. And I would say go for you. Because if we can bring the most authentic version of ourselves, then we can actually create this space where people could bring the most authentic version of themselves.
How do you tell the difference between a setback that just is a setback and one that you need to do a little bit more unpacking?
Yeah, there's if you feel like you've come up with an elevator speech for it, you need to do a little bit more unpacking.
Yeah, right.
Because to say this actually, it's a much bigger thing than all this, but here's some of the characteristics. So you could point at those. But if you think that you've summed up this whole thing in a sentence, particularly if that sentence rhymes, you need to do some more work.
Yes. Well, she got rejected 47 times. And you might have somebody come along and say, all right, Annie, enough's enough. The world is telling you this is not the path to go down. But she didn't. She kept going.
Yeah, that tenacity is beautiful. But what's even better than just tenacity is to have a sense of purpose and direction. And that's one of the things I've noticed in Annie for our entire friendship, that she understands why she's doing what she's doing. She has a beautiful ambition. And then this tenacity, while it's a beautiful characteristic, you can be tenacious in like running into the same wall. That doesn't make you wise. What makes Annie wise is she has an firm grasp of an overarching purpose in her life. And so if you know the purpose of your life, and it doesn't need to distill down to a Sunday school sentence, but to say a larger purpose in your life, then it'll give you context for dealing with the setbacks, and it'll give you the strength to continue. It'll read like tenacity. What it actually is somebody who's incredibly purposeful.
Yeah. Well, and she says every setback is an opportunity to dream big again.
One more time. Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah. Well, I'm so glad you had that conversation with Annie. I took a lot of notes, and we are thrilled for you to continue to subscribe and listen to the show.
How you respond to setbacks is going to determine if you have what it takes to accomplish your big dreams. There's no question if you'll experience setbacks. The question is going to be if you're prepared to face them with courage and truth and confidence. That's why this month we have a special giveaway for you. It's a workbook that's going to guide you to make a plan for the setbacks you're going to face. It's filled with exercises you can do on your own or with a friend or a small group, and we really want you to have it. There's a link to it in the show notes. Also, did you know that this fall we're doing more Dream Big live workshops? We just can't stop. We're going back to On-Site in Nashville. Again, it's October 11th through 14th, and then to Atlanta, October 22nd and 23rd. We really think there's no better investment that you can make in your big dreams than to get together with a bunch of other dreamers to dig through the framework that we have with Bob as your guide. Get all the information you need and sign up soon to reserve your spot at dreambigframework.com. That's dreambigframework.com.